Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. I'm sure all of you are aware that February is Black History Month, and our guest today is Eugene London. And Eugene is a very well-known, prominent businessman in Tullahoma with SIM-S. And we probably need to tell everybody what that means.
Okay. It stands for Systems Integration, Modeling, and Simulation.
Systems Integration, Modeling, and Simulation.
Yeah, some say stimulation, but it's simulation, not stimulation.
Okay. And that sounds fairly high-tech.
Well, essentially, we're a government contractor. We design telecommunication systems for the government and also the defense industry as well. So supporting different areas as far as services, software development, software engineering, anything associated with telecommunications, as far as from satellite all the way down to above and below ground cabling.
Primarily with the federal government.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's begin by getting a little background on Mr. London. Tell the folks about where you've been up till now.
Well, pretty much born and raised here in Tullahoma, Tennessee. And most folks know my dad, Eugene Sr. Goes by the name of Jinx London. And
Jinx.
Yes, I'm one of 6 kids in the family. There were 3 boys and 3 girls. Most folks know my brother Antonio, and we all grew up here in Tullahoma, and we all went to college and graduated from college. So I tell my dad all the time, he got lucky, put 6 kids through college, and I don't think he had to pay a dime. We all went to school on scholarship in some form or fashion.
Wow, great.
So,
yeah.
But after that, I graduated from college, came back to Tullahoma, worked at the Air Force Space for a couple of years, and then went to Huntsville and worked with Boeing and NASA. Supporting the defense industry there, working in telemetry and radar as a telemetry and radar engineer. And I was married. I have 3 kids, Jacob, Joseph, and Jocelyn. And Jacob, of course, played football at the high school.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know there's one of those that's pretty noted in the athletic community here. And
Joseph, of course, he plays football and basketball. And my daughter Jocelyn, she's more heavily into academics, but she also runs track as well. So she's the cutie of the bunch.
Well, very good. That's a good background. Well, let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and talk about Black history.
The highest standard of trust offers a sense of safety and comfort. It's established over time. You know when you see it. You know when you feel it. There's a standard of trust in healthcare. It's the Joint Commission Gold Seal of Approval. In 2003, Life Care Center of Tullahoma voluntarily achieved this accreditation and maintains it still today. Life Care, meeting a higher standard because residents matter most.
This is J.D. Oliver here at the Smokehouse on Monteagle Mountain. My sisters Betsy, Nancy, and I'd like to thank you for supporting our family business for over 50 years.
Hello, this is Stella Parton, and I am standing here right in the middle of Jim Oliver's Smokehouse restaurant. But you need to come in here. We just got through doing a show. We also have a music scene going on here, and I want to invite you to come down because it is your mountain destination. Music on the Mountain in Monteagle, Tennessee.
My name's Betsy Oliver. I'm the kitchen manager here. We serve a lot of ribs and barbecue and fried chicken.
Hey, this is Sean Mayer, and I just want to let everybody know to stop in at the Smokehouse if you're ever on your way to Chattanooga or Nashville. They not only have a great gift shop, awesome food, great entertainment on Saturday nights, but beautiful cabins to stay in. Check it out.
Make the Smokehouse your mountain getaway destination. Stay in one of our 84 lodge rooms and 20 timber frame log cabins. Look around our trading posts and eat in our delicious restaurant. Enjoy music on the mountain every Saturday night featuring the best of Nashville. Our family hopes to see you this year at Jim Oliver Smokehouse.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Eugene London. This is Black History Month, and we wanted to catch up on the meaning of that month and where we go from here. Eugene, I'm sure over the years the purpose the things they were trying to accomplish with Black History Month have evolved. How do you can you characterize what the purpose is now, what you hope to accomplish?
Well, I'm not the expert, but my understanding of Black history is an opportunity to just reflect on the things that many people did in order to get us where we are today, and also how the Africans have migrated over a period of time. So, but as far as today's day and age, there's still a long ways to go, and but I think we're making a lot of great progress.
Well, good, yeah. And I wanted to talk about that, and maybe you can describe for you. Say there's a long ways to go. So, where do things stand now, in your view, economically and socially? And
well, we could probably break it into multiple categories. If I were to select, education as a category, and maybe entertainment as a category, and of course medicine, science, and engineering and technology. But let's take education first of all.
And sports.
And sports, and let's talk about those two, if you like. Education made a lot of great progress in education. We still have difficulties when it comes to the African American male, the black male. And we have a very, very high dropout rate amongst the black male. We don't have black males that are seeking advanced degrees as we do as far as the black females and the other population here in the United States. So that becomes a focal area. I believe that Frida Lusk has done a lot of work in the community with the community mentor program.
Right.
And as we were talking earlier, those are the things that are necessary in order to mentor a child, whether it's black or white, that may not be in what we consider to be an environment that we may be accustomed to. Those that live in the inner city, they need that mentoring in order to grow up and grow out and be successful.
And I recall I've kept up with her activities quite a bit, and I think this past year and possibly the one before that, every one of the youngsters that she had mentoring, in fact, finished, which was really the purpose behind it.
Out of the years that she headed up the program, I think we had a 100% success rate for all the kids. And I can only recall one kid that did not graduate. I believe he ended up quitting school, but that says, speaks volumes for what she's done.
Yeah.
And of course, she had, of course, if you were to talk to Mrs. Lush, she would never take credit for it. She'd give the credit to the people that she surrounded herself with, and she had a great support staff.
Yeah, she's quite an incredible person.
Yes.
And I was not aware, really, for several years, that she was the very first black in the Tullahoma school system.
Yes.
The first one. Started out, well, I don't remember what she started as. She wound up being counselor, but
that's correct.
That wasn't where she started. Okay, and what about let's talk about the incarceration rate, and to some extent, the whole social situation, the family situation, incarceration rate, the teenage pregnancies, all of those things are sort of wrapped up. Discuss that a little bit. How do you see that?
Well, the incarceration situation is bad. Education, of course, is the key to success in anything, and of course, having the right amount of money in order to put programs and things of that nature in place. I asked a question from a Fisk University professor. I said, how do you solve this problem that we have with our black males, dropping out of school, so on and so forth? And he says, well, money solves just about every problem, but with enough money, you can put programs in place in order to address those problems. We have a lot of black men that are incarcerated, and the key is when they get out of prison, making sure that there's an avenue that allows them to become employed, number one, get an education, number two, and then feel like a citizen, number three. And I'll probably say something that's maybe not politically correct, but once again, these people have got to become not more than just taxpayers. They've got to become Americans again and be recognized as a citizen. And I truly believe that someone who has served his time or her time in prison should be given the right to vote if they're paying taxes.
Yeah, that's right. If I guess it's a felony. If you commit any felony,
exactly,
you
lose the right to vote.
And
it's kind of difficult to become. And I've talked to a lot of, we have a program at our office where we support and help people getting out of prison. And one of the major gripes is that I'm really not a citizen of this country. I still have to pay taxes, but I can't vote.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the old story of taxation without representation. But that's another area that we really don't want to get into.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And of course, again, money solves every problem, but the fact that there really is no organized rehab program, and not only for blacks, for anybody really, but it particularly affects them since they're the.
And then, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I think about the mentoring program that Mrs. Luskin and those guys started, it wasn't a program that was just for the blacks. It was for anyone that was at risk of not being successful as far as getting a high school diploma. And I think that we need to focus on the entire population and not just so-called the blacks as well. But anyone coming out of prison really needs that opportunity to gain employment and to further education, develop a skill. There's got to be a place for these people in our society.
Well, yeah, because without that, what you're most likely to wind up with is reincarceration. They'll wind up in there again.
The revolving door, exactly.
Yeah. And I imagine by the time you've been through that a couple of times, it's all over.
Yes.
They kind of lose any incentive. Well, and the message that the only way out of poverty is with an education really goes across a broad status of the younger generations, but maybe a little more so with blacks. And I don't know how we. That doesn't sound like that ought to be very difficult to fix, and it's such kind of an obvious thing that.
Well, even with education, Tom, what we're seeing, I have a lot of black friends here in town that have an education but can't get a job. Once again, it's all about relationships. For example, I hope I don't embarrass her by calling her name out. Her name is Lisa Tate. She's come to me looking for employment. Very, very qualified lady in the town, but she can apply for a job. Of course, she's black, and she gets overlooked. And you ask the question why. You compare her resume to someone else who got hired in her place, and once again, was she rejected because of that she's black, or because someone else had a better reference? And that's what we're seeing. We all in the business world, we hire people a lot of times based on the fact that someone may have recommended that person.
Yeah.
And I think that's once again a problem that we have in our black community, because if you don't have someone that can give you a reference, it may not be so much a reference from a work standpoint, but just from a social standpoint. Your father or your mother being in the community, having known someone, so on and so forth. Because we want to surround ourselves with people that we feel comfortable with. And a lot of people say that's a form of discrimination, and maybe it is. And I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's just what we see in today's day and age. And the question is, how do you get around those things? How can we get business to feel comfortable with hiring black people that may not have that so-called reference?
Well, it's a good question. How do we? You don't have the answer yet.
I don't have the answer, but it's really disheartening when you see blacks that have put forth the effort to get the education.
Sure.
And may not be able to get through the doors because of something unknown.
Okay. Well, all right. We need to take another short commercial break, folks, and we'll be back and talk some more.
Hi, Grandma. It's Jake. I'm calling to tell you I love you more than anything in the whole wide world, even ice cream. I love you more than spaghetti and meatballs. I love you more than snakes and monkeys and sharks and whales and praying mantises. Bye, Grandma. Love you.
Let it all in with Charter Phone, including unlimited local and long-distance calls.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Eugene London. And the purpose of this chat is to familiarize you with, some more with the fact that this is not only Black History Month, but there is a history there that needs to be told, and problems that still need fixing. Before we broke, Eugene, you were talking about the problem that educated blacks even have a difficulty getting a job because they don't have the reference pool, people who know them and can recommend them that will be noticeable to the employer. Let's just go face up on that question for a minute. Is there still some discrimination involved in that?
No, I definitely believe so.
You have
to.
I
don't think it's so much discrimination as far as on the part, but then again, it's the people that we cater to. And you walk into a business in Tullahoma, and that's one thing I can say about the businesses that I support and the organization I'm involved in. I like to be able to walk into that business and see people that represent the entire city, whether it's black, white, Hispanic, or whatever. And a lot of times when you walk in businesses and you don't see that mixture of people, that diverse group of folks, it's very concerning. It's very concerning.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're a little bit unique in that our black population is relatively small compared to most of them. That problem in the cities must be really obvious and sizable. Well, let's talk a little bit about another problem again that grows across the board, but there again there's a little bit more percentage-wise among blacks, and that's teenage pregnancy. And of course, once a teenager becomes president, has a child, the chances of finishing their education go down tremendously. So they're stuck in that's sort of a self-propelling welfare situation. What is it we're not doing that we should be doing in that regard?
I don't know, Tom. Once again, I'm not the expert in that area, but I am pleased to read that the numbers are dropping,
right.
Not only for the blacks, but also for the community as a whole.
Right.
Teenage pregnancy is down, and what's causing that, I'm sure it has to do with educating the kids on birth control, being celibate, and things of that nature. So I think it's a combination of the home, faith, and also education as far as from the science standpoint.
Well, I wondered, you mentioned home and church, so that should be. Well, actually, I don't know whether the churches are teaching that much sex education or not. It's an interesting point.
I think they're more. It's not so much the sex education piece of it. It's the part of being abstinence and living that life of the Christian. Right. So I think that's been very, very, very instrumental in reducing the teenage pregnancy. Of course, once again, another political topic that it's all over the news today. But birth control and things of that nature, and those are just problems that we've been faced with for a long time.
Yeah, and every time the subject of sex education comes up in connection with the schools, we wind up with a lot of flap. There's a lot of people that don't think that's something the schools ought to be involved in, and I don't understand that. If it's a problem with education, then shouldn't be that difficult to fix.
Well, to me, and the school may not be the right place to teach it, but it may be a good place to hand out some media. For example, if you don't teach in the school, maybe you have a DVD or something you give to the child, you take home, and they sit down with the family, go over it. In other words, they have that choice whether they want to introduce it to their kids or teach their kids they can or not.
Right.
But with technology today, there's so much we can do and give folks that choice. And maybe keep it outside of the school system where it may be a controversial issue, where it may offend someone because of his or her faith or things of that nature.
Of course, that then also depends on what kind of technology may be available in the home in particular. You know, it may be that you give them a DVD and they don't have anything to play it on.
Well, we can be rest assured that just about everyone has a TV and may not have a DVD player, but they may have a Wii or some type of game where they can play the media. Statistics demonstrate that's the case.
Very true. Okay. Well, what are we doing these days in terms of motivation, or trying to incentivize the youngsters and make sure they're aware of what needs to be done and have the drive to do it? You got any thoughts along that line?
Well, I think the counseling department, especially at the high school, and you're seeing it more and more at the elementary level, that kids are being instructed now or given opportunities to choose a career at a younger age, things they want to do, and being tasked to investigate those particular careers. There's different organizations like the CEO program at the Chamber where you have mentors that are going in, mentoring these kids, encouraging them, things of that nature. Of course, once again, it used to be the saving grace for the black was sports. And of course, we talked about that earlier. Sports was always our motivation, something that motivated us in order to participate not only in school, but then again, when you look at the accomplishments that the blacks have made in the area of science, technology, medicine, we've come a long ways. We've come a long ways, and sports is not the only motivator anymore. It's the fear of being not successful. You know, a lot of kids that grow up in a poverty state, they don't want to be there. And that scares them to death, and that's one of the greatest motivators ever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have. Are we putting the right expectations on the kids? Are they finding out early enough? I think what's really expected of them in terms of education and career choice.
We've made some improvements, but we're not where we need to be. If an organization can go in and evaluate the test scores of a kid in the 3rd grade and then determine how many prisons are necessary to build based on the 3rd grade score, then we should be able to go in and do the same thing and motivate these kids so that we can prevent these kids from going to prison and determine how many colleges or institutions that we need to build in order to educate our kids.
Well, I noticed, again, just recently the president is coming out with or trying to come out with a new program to motivate more of us to go in science and engineering, the technical subjects, which brings me to what may be our last question, globalization, which is really making the world smaller and wide open. And I know, how do you feel about the effect of that? And particularly, we're getting a good example out of Africa.
Exactly, we were talking about that earlier. The commodities that Africa has to offer. Of course, their infrastructure is not where it needs to be in order to support this growth. And I'm just hoping that maybe some American companies can get in there and help to build on this infrastructure. When it comes to telecommunication, transportation, they have gold, they have natural gas, of course the oil. But when that population really begins to take advantage of these assets they have and they begin to put this labor force to work, they're going to explode. They're going to explode. And we were talking earlier about the Dominican Republic, which has a great labor force, very, very intelligent people. But, of course, not like Africa, they don't have those commodities to offer. So how do you stimulate those countries?
Don't have any way to raise the income.
Exactly.
To do it. Yeah. And I know we certainly need to be smarter and more active in Africa, because and not give sub-Saharan Africa to the Chinese, who are really taking advantage of it, and they're the ones that are building a lot of infrastructure.
And I think you said it best earlier. If we miss out on that opportunity, we really miss out on the opportunity to increase our GNP, because I think we should really partner with Africa and help them to build that that infrastructure, not so much the government doing it, but maybe the government creating that handshake between, you know, private organizations and the African government in order to offer our services. And we expect to be compensated for our services as well.
Sure. Well, with that, folks, guess what? We've run out of time. We're going to have to take another short commercial break and wind up. So you got...
And I'm Mike Thompson, and we own Thompson Ford in Tullahoma, Tennessee. Lori and I bought the dealership back. It's on Highway 55. Same dealership that we had for 10 years. Look forward to serving you for another 10. Thank you to the community. Thank you for allowing us to be here for the last 15 years. Thank you for having us raise our family here.
Thank you for all your support.
It's been a great place. It's a great place to live. Look forward to living here. Put me in the ground here. I'd be proud to do it. God bless America and God bless Tennessee.
You'll never guess what happened today.
What?
You want to see? They found a giant squid in New Zealand, bigger than this whole bedroom. Bigger than Mommy's minivan. Pounds. Isn't that amazing? And its eyeball, big as a basketball.
Let it all in with Charter Internet and get the fastest, most reliable internet speeds.
Talking today, this is Black History Month, and we've been talking today with Eugene London, who is a very prominent businessman around town, and so we've been talking generally about what Black History Month is all about, and also where we still need to go from here. So, Eugene, you got a little word you'd like to say to the folks out there? And
well, first of all, Tom, I just want to make sure that, you know, this conversation that we've had is not offensive to anyone. We cover a lot of ground here very, very quickly. You know, a lot of things that touches people, maybe in a positive or in a negative way. And it's not our objective to offend, but to inform. But if I had this opportunity, I would say to my fellow business partners in Tullahoma, let's take an opportunity to look at our environment, to make sure our environment is as diversified as it can be, to make sure that we're not doing things that may appear to be discriminatory,
right,
and making sure that we're gathering the right resources in order to have the best output as far as our product and services. Tullahoma is a wonderful place to be, and as the president of the chamber of last year, had a wonderful time and enjoy working with people. But you know, we all are part of this community. It's not just the blacks, it's the whites, it's everyone that makes this history that we're so proud of.
Okay. Well, with that, folks, we have run out of time, and we want to thank Mr. London for taking time to be with us, and thank you for inviting us into your parlor, and we'll see you next time.